Hello, and welcome to the start of another weekly reading vlog. And this week's an intense week for me a little bit. For the first time in 3 months, I went back to the lab today. For those who don't know, who are new here, I'm a PhD candidate who does research in biophysics, which means a lot of stuff I just can't do at home, so that just meant I was doing a lot of teaching and working on writing while I was at home, and today I went into work and it was good, but it's definitely like an adjustment I'm making. It also probably means that I will be reading a little less because I don't have, like, if I'm going into work, I usually don't have time to read at work unless it's an audiobook, but of course the audiobook I'm waiting for is not available yet. So I actually got to listen to a lot of podcasts today, so that was nice. But I do have some reading plans that I do think I'll be able to accomplish this week. The first one being Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is my first Leigh Bardugo. I have not read Six of Crows or the Grishaverse, and I'm buddy reading this with Ava and Rachel, and I'll have their channels down below. And yeah, so this book has a lot of mixed reviews, but I do think generally positive reviews. I think most of the mixed reviews come from there's just a lot of trigger and content warnings for this book, which I can already tell like 5 chapters in. I'm like, oh yes, this is gruesome, and we have already touched on some tough subjects, like drug addiction and overdose has already been brought up. So I don't know. I'll probably be, hey cat, I'll probably be okay because I don't have that many trigger warnings. I also can see that like it's a flashback storytelling style, which I know just doesn't jive with everyone, but I personally love when you start at either the climax or the end and then I get to work my way there. It's like it's completely out of context, so I don't feel very spoiled, and then I just get to really appreciate the journey with all of this like tension, because then sometimes you forget where you're going and sometimes they'll make you like comfortable. And yeah, it's kind of like seeing how tall a roller coaster is doesn't make it less scary when you're in line for it. I've been thinking about roller coasters because I was supposed to go to Cedar Point this summer, and I don't think that's going to happen. And if you don't know what Cedar Point is, go to Ohio when it's not a pandemic and go to Cedar Point, because it is so much better than all the Six Flags you've been to. I've said it. So yeah, I'm reading Ninth House. I'm also reading The Time of Contempt. I believe that's the Witcher book I am on. And super slow start because my mental health the past 2 days has been iffy because of all the stress of going back to work. But I feel more like myself, so we'll hope that continues. But because of that, I've also been reading Check Please Volume 2 because it will instantly make me happy. It's just so good. I keep saying this. You've seen my tag video, you've seen my wrap up, you've seen my other vlogs. You should read Check Please. It's wonderful. So yeah, I am also consuming that, and I guess I do have other things I'll try and get to if I have time, but honestly, that's like, with just the 2 novels, 800 pages, so we'll see if I can get that much done this week. So those are my goals, and I'm really excited because tonight, Ryan, the boyfriend, is going to come over. We usually hang out on Wednesdays. It's like the one day that I don't have planned for like other Zooms or things, and we like don't play board games together often because I try to be like a considerate girlfriend and not like drag him into my hobbies, except for reading. He has to read, but he did that before me. And so I have this board game that he actually wanted to play. He's like, so are we gonna play this game? Like, when are we doing that? Which makes me so happy. So we're gonna do that tonight, and I am excited because I could use some more good decompression and like exciting things after going into work today. Like, it really was fine, but it's still just like I'm not good with a lot of change. You know, as you get older, you learn a lot about yourself, and through some therapy and a lot of what is it called? With a lot of therapy and a lot of, I don't know, self-analysis, I've learned that change triggers my anxiety and depression. So yeah, I just have to accept it. And luckily, like normal, things are kind of settling. But that is this update, a very rambly one, but I will check in once I have more thoughts. Alright, so it is Friday and I have read more and the mental health is holding the cat. So that is good. Alright, so I am about 60% of the way through Ninth House, so I have substantially more thoughts. In terms of the trauma, I am personally in the camp that it's being handled well, and I don't know, like I feel like so the Red Rising series, I do like that series, but I do think it does a lot to it does a lot of shocking, traumatically gruesome, grim things. So to me, a lot of that always felt, I don't know, like I said, it just kind of felt like it was shock value. Versus here, these things are traumatic, but I'm also not shocked about them. If that makes sense. If you haven't looked at the trigger warnings, there's rape and sexual assault and gosh, a whole host of other things I'm sure that I'm forgetting. But I'm thinking about these sexual assault and rape incidences as I'm talking about this. But not having personal connections to those topics, I actually don't know how good or bad it's being handled. I am interested in looking at reviews after I finish reading the book to see what other people have said who have more like, I don't know, more own experience with it, which sounds bad, but you know what I mean, like people who don't agree with me that it's being handled well. I really want to listen and think about that. But what I will say in terms of trauma that I can relate to is she very subtly does this really cool thing. So if you have issues with your parents from trauma in the past, there is sometimes there's stress in communication when you're an adult, because the idea is everything should be behind you. You are growing forward from that traumatic event, but really it's always with you, so it kind of does affect your communication with that parent. And I just, on the nose, she handled it. Like, because I have some, like, it's generally a really good relationship with my father, but we do have a strained relationship at times. And, like, those strained moments are, like, exactly what Alex and her mom kind of do. And it's super subtle. But, like, it's those little things that just, I don't know. It makes me feel like these things are handled well. And it also does give me, like, I don't really love these characters. Like, I like their existence, but I don't love them as people, but I understand them better because I understand their history and how they got here. Like, they're flawed, but their circumstances are also not ideal. And I also just, like, away from that, because I know that that's, like, a big topic when it comes to Ninth House when people are looking to see if they want to consume it. I think the world building's really cool. Like, I like the different societies and, like, I don't know, just learning about each of it and, like, how magic exists. I like this whole, like, the mystery investigation part. I'm a sucker for that. Not that I read a lot of mystery, but I guess I like it when it's part of a plot in a fantasy book now that I think about it. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's really nice. It's my first Leigh Bardugo, so that's cool. I haven't gotten that much farther in Time of Contempt, but I am making more progress. I it's weird. I'm interested to see where the plot is going. I feel like I'm still like in just so much setup right now. But like I also enjoy my time with Geralt and Yennefer, and Ciri's growing on me. So I'm really interested to see how the show handles this because Ciri is much younger in the books than the show portrays her to be. So I'm curious about how we're gonna age it up. I mean, I guess we did fine with Arya Stark, which was like a similar thing that happened. I think Arya was about the age of Ciri in the book, and then the actress was significantly older. So, well, we'll see. I'm not like super concerned, but it's something I'm curious about. Oh, so much cat hair. Cat hair. Don't have cats if you don't like cat hair. And if you ever want to wear black again. It doesn't happen anymore. Right? It doesn't happen anymore. Alright, but I did start, because it came in the mail and I'd been meaning to get to it, White Rage, which is a part of the Blackout Buddy Read I mentioned 2 vlogs ago that Shay is hosting. I don't have White Fragility because they're out of it, and I really wanted to physically own these so that I can pass it around to people in my family, because that's what we do. I mean, it's what I did with Evicted and Just Mercy when I read those. My book club reads a lot of hard-hitting things, so I read Evicted 2 years ago and passed that around, and then I read Just Mercy last fall and passed that around. just because they're important. I've brought up both of those nonfictions on my channel in the past, but in order to understand and empathize with systems, you need to read nonfiction, and it's hard, especially those two books, because they're written so well. You think you're in a story, and then you have to remember that's a real human suffering, and it's important. But that's also, I'm not surprised by anything I've read in here so far. It's still early. It's just making me angry that my school was just like, I mean, I think most schools were. It's like when you learn American history, you learn it like in 5th grade, and then you learn it again in 7th grade, and then you learn it again in high school. And each time you start at the very beginning in like the 1600s when like all the colonies are being set up, and then you have to go through the Revolutionary War, and then I don't know, and then the 1800s are kind of a blur until you get to the not Civil War, no, it was a Civil War. Sorry. And then after the Civil War, Reconstruction is like a week of class, and then you're in the Gilded Age, which is the most boring part of history. Can we all agree the Gilded Age sucked? But in terms of like studying for that exam, and like, it's touched on that Reconstruction didn't stick. There were Jim Crow laws. Like, that is a thing that I knew. But man, there was a lot more that could have been unpacked and should have been unpacked, especially because, like, I took AP US history. Like, I'm taking a college-level history course. Maybe we should talk about those things. Or maybe just every time you take history, don't repeat ourselves over and over again and actually go in-depth to a certain thing. Like, I think 7th grade Angela and 10th grade Angela had about the same retention, which, honestly, 10th grade was probably worse, because, let's be real, when you're in 10th grade, you're not paying attention to much. At least, I was valedictorian, and I was not paying attention to much at all. So, I don't know. So, I'm reading that, and yes, I'm looking forward to it, and then my mom's gonna read it, then my grandma's gonna read it, and stuff like that, because that's what we do. Just we pass around nonfictions. I'll do the same thing with White Fragility whenever that gets in. So yeah, I'm going to read more of White Fragility, Time of Contempt, and, you know, get some more stuff done. And who knows what I'm doing tonight? It's a movie night, and we have like a list we've started to be making of movies, because yeah, this is just our lives now. So yeah, I did film some videos today though. I don't know when I'm putting it up, but I guess, yeah, it's probably not coming up till after you see this. So I just filmed my new Science Behind the Magic video, and it's about quantum mechanics, which is like my favorite part of physics. So I'm plugging that. That's happening Fridays upload, I'm pretty sure, assuming I don't run into technical glitches in editing. That's my goal. And I know quantum mechanics is like scary and like weird and confusing, but it's so cool. And I would really love for you to stop by and maybe learn something. So that's what I've done with my time off work. Because my new weekends are Friday, Saturday, because I go into work Sundays now for free parking, because I'm driving to work, because I'm not quite ready for the bus yet. Alright, I'll check in a bit. Alright, it is the end of the vlog. It is the end of my first week integrating back into work. Nothing's on fire. This is great. We're doing good. As predicted, did not read as much as I normally do, but I did finish Ninth House, and I'll probably do a review for it. I'm not going to promise anything, because I feel like this review is going to require a lot of research, because this book tackles a lot of things. There's no way I think it could have ever done everything perfectly or right, so I want to make sure I critique it appropriately. And that said, I enjoyed it. Like, 4 out of 5 stars. I think I spent most of my Saturday reading Ninth House, and it was pretty great. You want to be on the vlog? Ugh. Okay. So I spent most of my Saturday reading it after a lovely walk with the boyfriend with a milkshake. And it was really great. Like, it's super... If you like those detective stories where the investigator just keeps getting, like, crisis after crisis on them, it's a really enjoyable plot arc. I will say I kind of sort of predicted part of the ending, but not the complete ending. I don't think I loved the villains, but I don't know, I enjoyed the whole, like, story. I had a good time, but there's definitely a lot that isn't done perfectly, and I will actually put a review below of someone who gave it a 1-star review, because I watched that, and I do think that she brings up a lot of good points. I disagree on some of the things, but like in terms of some of the more problematic portions that are the areas I want to make sure I like go into before giving a more holistic review. But yeah, it was a good time. I don't know. Ugh, cat. I have something that I have a personal problem with, but I also don't know if it's like a problem with myself or a problem with the book. Like I have this issue as a reader in the year 2020 who somehow still, no matter how many times I try and like beat it out of my head, will almost instantly make a character white unless it's relatively obvious that they're not. And then I'll find out. Usually, this actually almost only happens with white authors. When I'm reading by people of color and other marginalized authors, this representation, like, shield that, like, stops you from seeing it doesn't usually happen. So I do think it's partially me and partially them. Because I do think that sometimes white authors will make a white character, but make them black or Hispanic. They won't change how they interact with the world. I'm not saying necessarily that, like, you need to act black or whatever. I'm just, for example, the character I'm talking about here is a detective in Connecticut. So to be a black detective in Connecticut is going to be a very different experience than being a white detective in Connecticut. It just is. It's a very white in New England, and when it's not white, it's not normally on the police force or in the higher up levels of the police force, like being a detective. That's just the facts. But I really did not notice that until 300 pages in. And like I said, part of that's on me, but I also think part of that's on the author, and I need to dig into that more and find out if some people who are more own voices about it agree with that, or if it really is just me being like real dumb, because that happens. It's just a problem. But I really enjoyed it. I would for sure obviously look up all the trigger warnings if you have those before you read it. But I personally really, I read 40% of that book in a day. That's a pretty good book for me in terms of pure enjoyment of the book. So yeah. And I also continued on with White Rage. And I'm having white rage, but it's not the white rage we're talking about here. And actually, if you haven't picked this up or don't know, the white rage that Carol is referring to is the rage of the white race when a different race, particularly a black race, in this case the black man, is doing well, then they get upset. And they react by creating systems that will then lower that race so they can be on top again. And if it sounds childish, it sure comes across that way, but it's something childish being done by a whole bunch of adults since the 1800s. At least this book takes place from the end of Civil War, I think up to now. I don't actually know. I haven't finished it. I'm only 2 chapters in. Yeah, it's up to now, because the last chapter is how to unelect a black president, so that feels pretty now. I just read the chapter on the Great Migration, and I have known this, and I've been saying this for a while, but being up north in America does not make you less racist than the South. We are not objectively less racist than the South, and I know that. But I don't think a lot of people do, like, especially when I moved to Massachusetts. I felt like I was around a lot of people who had this, like, high horse opinion that they were better because they were liberal. But then I would see how segregated their schools are. When I went to a pretty integrated school, it was 60% black, 40% white, and other people of color. And, yeah, and then how segregated the neighborhoods are in Boston. Like, there are definite portions that are segregated based off race and socioeconomic class. Like, that is not the sign of a healthy racial system here. There is systemic racism laced throughout, and it starts with this Great Migration chapter, which, God, it's just, if you told these things to a 5-year-old, they would know that they are wrong, but you have adults to this day who can probably empathize with the opinions of these other adults, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I'm not surprised. But yeah, sometimes it's just incredible, and I just wish we'd let like kindergartners decide rules, because we teach them all to share and be kind to each other even if they're different, mainly because it makes them easier to take care of because they won't start fights, right? That's why we teach them those things. I don't think we teach them because we actually care about those values. If we cared about the values of sharing and treating each other all equally despite their differences, the world would be a very different place. But we all teach our children this so that they won't fight when they're in play dates or in preschool. Anyways, not I won't rant too much more, but I'm reading that. That's good reading. I am still continuing Time of Contempt. I'm getting into it now. I feel like we've gotten into the plot. It's pretty good. We've had some good Geralt fight scenes. I don't know how I feel about the portrayal of romance. I don't think that is Sapkowski's strong suit here. Like, I like when they're pining for each other, but I don't like when they're together. I feel it's very, like, cliche dialogue. I don't love that. But, yeah. So, enjoying that, but I'm only 50% of the way through that. It was just a slower reading week because of things. But that's where I'm going to wrap it up so that I can start the next vlog, which will be the first week of Read the Olympics and also the Throwbackathon Readathon, which are 2 readathons that are happening, so I will mention them here so you see them. The Throwbackathon Readathon it's the week you're seeing this, and it's based off Saturday morning cartoons. It's hosted by the Black Prose Book Club. I'll have them linked down below. And Read the Olympics is hosted by Kayla, and both are fun, and I'm having a great time. And also, even if you don't want to read, the Black Prose Book Club has Instagram challenges, so you can go check that out. And yeah, with that, I will let you see my cat because he's adorable. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.